So, I just wanted to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here today with Andrea Arciga. She is a real estate investor and a California broker who has dedicated more than 20 years to real estate, mortgage origination, sales, mentoring agents, and is now settled into what she refers to as an investor broker role within her brokerage and her real estate investment and education company. So she's represented a catalog of investors managing the rehab, design, staging, and sales negotiations of over 200 properties throughout Southern California. So today she leads a crew of like-minded real estate investor agents, guiding them through each real estate transaction and investment strategy. And I'm going to let her introduce Stacy Augustin.
Yes. Okay. So here with me is Stacy. Aloha, Stacy. Stacy is joining us in Big Bear today. We are both, just to start off there by saying we are both in Big Bear, California, Big Bear Lake. We have bought two of many hope to come short-term rentals up here in Big Bear. And so we had to meet with an inspector, the only inspector in the entire city. So you got to permit everything over here. Anyway, so Stacy's here and I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself. She is all the way from Hawaii and came here to work on our Big Bear projects. Go ahead, Stacy. Yeah. Actually, I think you're good.
I can hear you, actually.
Okay, sweet. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. My name is Stacy. My background is in engineering. I got an engineering degree from UC Irvine, and then I ended up working for a big GC doing construction management outside of college while flipping houses on the side. And then recently I quit my job and work under Andrea here to just flip full time now and do some really cool stuff. So I'm really excited to hear it, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. And then I wanted to tell everybody, as far as when Andrea used to be an agent, I did a little bit of, I was going to say cyber stalking, but that sounds negative. So I just wanted to say researching. And she has, yes, thank you. I did my due diligence, and she has 37 5-star ratings on Zillow, for example. Then another thing I thought was really cool that I want to tell you guys about is she created so far 11 buy boxes. Well, I should say in 11 states to start with. That's just to start with. And I know that she's going to do more than that eventually, but she's got 2 multifamily buy boxes in New Mexico and Ohio. So that's interesting. She has a buy and hold box in Utah. And then she has 8 fix and flip boxes in Hawaii, Nevada, California, Arizona, New York, Texas, DC, and Virginia. So I want to mention that.
Hashtag girl power.
Yeah. And I told everyone, I don't know if I said it, I'm super excited too, because she's our first female iBuyer, like legit female iBuyer. Because we do have a couple, Terry, right, that are like, they're kind of, they work for the iBuyers, but they're not the iBuyers. So Andrea is legit iBuyer. So that's really exciting. I did want to say, though, just as a reminder to everybody real quick on Express Offers, that the investors can change their buy boxes at any time. So she's a perfect example of that, that as her needs are flexible and as she changes her market and stuff, her boxes will change. She may delete them, she may update them. So I just want to remind everybody that before you go to submit a property, you need to check the buy boxes just to make sure that the buy box is still there, or just in general that the property you're trying to put in, it fits a buy box. That's all. So Andrea, I was going to let you take it away because I know we talked a little bit about this, and we said that you will go over how to locate, analyze, build rapport, and present as an investor's agent, and that you might touch on some agent investing as well.
All right. And I'm going to throw in there, I know you guys mapped out a plan, but Andrea, I would love it if either at the end or whenever you could tell your story real quick, the story that you put in the agent guidelines, because I think that is hugely powerful and inspirational. So if you have time and you want to.
Yep. Okay, I'll start with
that. I'm just going to kind of let you go, basically.
All right, I'm writing some notes. Locate, analyze. What were the other 2 I promised?
You said you would locate, analyze, build rapport, which I hope everyone does anyways, and present as an investor's agent. Okay. And then you might touch on real estate investing if we have time.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, like Terry said, your story would be awesome. Maybe you start with.
I'm gonna do my story super duper fast. Okay.
Okay.
So so first of all, my name is Andrea Arciga. Always been Arciga. I am a Latina from Orange County. I was born and raised in the city of Santa Ana, made my way from there to many, many cities, just being that I've been doing real estate. I quit my day job. That's a big thing now, quit your day job. I quit my day job. It was cool because I started housekeeping at the age of 21. That was actually the most important thing to know about that is that was with 2 children. So I had my first child at the age of 16, my second one at the age of 19. So I became a Latina statistic immediately coming out of high school. Anyway, but I have always been entrepreneurial. I grew up with educated Hispanic parents. My mom got a degree in the 50s, which for women was kind of a big deal. And my dad as well. They came here legally, but started off like picking strawberries in Orange County and picking oranges and then went on to Disneyland. When they built Disneyland, they knew the owner, the Disney family, because they were one of the first employees of Disneyland. Anyway, so we have a long history in Orange County of being go-getting Mexicans. And I say Mexicans a lot because we're very proud of where we've come. But I was a statistic. I did have my children very young, and I did end up a single mother very young. So I worked my way through the tech industry. I worked for the #1 computer training company at the time in the world. That was New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. And I was very young working there. I was very fortunate to have some mentors that cared for me, knew my story, and taught me to be very, very good at sales. I had done like telemarketing type stuff, 15 years old, 16, 17. So I was familiar with sales and building rapport. But then when I went into corporate America, I really got polished there. I was the youngest youngest woman manager. I was a manager for the company, for corporate, and I was selling $500,000 franchises throughout Canada and the United States. So all of North America. That was in my early, in 19, 20, 21. And then about the age of 23, I got laid off because that was after, 9/11 and the tech industry took a dump. And that was kind of all I knew. So fortunately for me, a friend of mine threw me into real estate with her because she had just opened a brokerage, a Coldwell Banker in Santa Ana, California. So anyways, that's when my real estate career started. I learned how to be a lender, did that for about 10 years. I've always been good at marketing because that's what I did. I had to market for my sales over at New Horizons. So I had kind of learned graphic arts and a little bit of stuff to do marketing. And back then, the readily available Canvas and Photoshop Express and Photoshop didn't exist. So I learned to do that kind of thing in order to get agents to work with me as a lender. So that's how I got my feet wet. I said, I'll make you a logo. I'll make you a newsletter if you give me a loan. All your loans, basically. So that's how I really got started hustling into real estate. And then after the next wave hit, or right before, I went from being a lender to being a real estate agent, and went into, then from there, that same friend who got me in the business brought me back into her business to do REO and sell HUD homes. Through the service HUD homes servicer, the REO HUD homes. Anyways, and so I did that for a while, and then that's where I got the bug to become a real estate investor. And at that time, I knew a few real estate investors, including that friend's husband, but they had the mentality of, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. But you can list it for me and be my real estate agent and find me deals, and I'll give you 1% to list it. And that was as close as I could get to real estate investing in those days. That would have been somewhere around 2000, maybe 2007, something like that. No, I'm sorry, 2009 maybe. That's when I started getting the bug. So between 2009 and 2013 or so, I wanted to be an investor, but thought I needed to have money to do so. So I was like every real estate agent. In fact, at that point, I was already a broker, but I just felt like I couldn't do that because I was still paycheck to paycheck, or let's call it escrow to escrow. And so I just thought it wasn't anything that I could do. And I didn't know how to do it. And there really wasn't a lot of the HGTV television shows and stuff just yet. So a lady by the name of Iris Veneration at Invest Club, at that time it was Invest Club for Women, opened the doors for me to take what was called her 60-day challenge. And that was basically like a wholesaler's class. And my entire world lit up. It was like my agent experience, my broker experience, my REO experience, my lending experience all went pop, 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 pop into my head. And then, you know, now I had the hat of a real estate investor, and I understood the tools, which is what I'm going to briefly go over with you guys today. Basically the principles of what I learned that made me not only the most badass broker agent ever, because I understood the off market, I understood the on market, and everything in between. So my confidence went, you know, skyrocketed, and the opportunities opened up. I was all of a sudden sitting at kitchen tables, you know, for a listing, in a different way. I was hitting up for sale by owners, not as a pesky real estate agent like everyone else. I was calling them as the buyer. And that by itself, becoming a real estate agent or broker buyer versus presenting myself as an agent totally changed the game. Why? Because I could get a listing if that's what they wanted to do. And sometimes they did want to go top dollar and fix it up and have the showings and put the sign on the yard and, you know, yada, yada, yada. But then there were times where they didn't want to do that. And so then there was all these in-betweens. So I was able to capture all of it. And that is honestly should be your end game. If you really love real estate and you want to stay in this game, you need to know both sides of the spectrum. However, there's another way to do it without going that far. And that is becoming an agent that understands the needs of an investor and can start to build yourself what's called a buyer's list. So the way you guys call your sphere of influences, which are basically a buyer list, but it's basically just people that eventually will buy and eventually will sell. A buyer's list for an agent investor is so much more powerful, and I'll tell you why. It is a list of people that don't buy and sell every 5 to 7 years, people. It is a list of people that buy and sell multiple times a month or a year or even every couple of years, but it's a multitude that they generally will buy. And or it's people that will buy in the multi-millions because they're buying, you know, a 20-unit apartment in Orange County or LA County. And that's a nice big commission because that's a big sale. And you guys can foster that. In fact, if you guys aren't on the commercial side of your agency, you can always look into that in the future as you start growing yourself and getting more confident in doing that kind of thing. So my point is, if you think, okay, I've got my sphere of influence, I got my dentist, my neighbors, my friends and family, all the stuff you're taught as an agent, that you know, it's burned in your head. Now you're like a dope agent investor, and you've got a buyer's list of people, again, who buy multiple. They'll buy as many as you can hand them if they make sense. How amazing is that? Then you think, well, but it's hard to find because if I go to the MLS, there's multiple offers right now. It's, you know, lines across the street waiting to get into the property. I know the market. I know that market because I'm selling houses that I've rehabbed right now. So I keep track of that. But that's not what I'm talking about. First of all, I find deals on the MLS all the time. My second Big Bear property, I bought off the MLS. Yes. And I just closed escrow on Friday, and I was only in escrow for 3 weeks. So 3 weeks ago, you guys, hear this. 3 weeks ago, Big Bear is one of the hottest markets there is in California right now. It's so ridiculously hot because of COVID, because you can social distance here and have outdoor play fun, and it's a lake, so it's year round. I bought a property off the MLS for a spanking deal. And it hadn't been on the market a long time. There wasn't pesky tenants. There wasn't a problem that I solved. I just called the listing agent directly, and it didn't even matter that so much. So is that I sold myself, and that I had the ability to close quickly and all that kind of stuff that you hear investors say. So I can close quickly. I don't need to get financing. If I do, it's a guy who can finance in 3 days. I'm not going to inspect, and what I do inspect, I'm not going to expect anything fixed. I'm not even going to ask for termite. I'm basically just ready to take it. I'm going to fix it up anyways, dude. I tell your seller, like, I'm the easiest buyer he's ever going to deal with. So that's how I got that property. It was on the market for 225. I paid 230. I paid more than MLS and I'm an investor. I paid more than asking price. What? Yes, I did. I do it all the time. Because if my strategy numbers work, I don't care. I'll pay 100,000 over what it is on the MLS. So some of these things, these fallacies I hear, these rumors that go through these brokerages, like first of all, investors are terrible to work with. They're going to waste time. They're going to be showing lowballing every offer and embarrassing you and ruining your reputation, and they'll never buy anything from you. Hush. Some investors will do that. The newbies that don't know what they're doing, and they, some class told them to find an agent chump that will like run around town for them and put lowball offers in. But if you interview your investors and you know who you're dealing with and they want to work with you, cha-ching. Because when I have an agent, and I'm a broker and I use agents all the time. Like I said, I went directly to that listing agent. I have a gal in Orange County that's a friend of mine that I'm like, hey, find me some deals. When you work with investors, even if they're licensed, first of all, there's legalities there and insurance issues. I don't represent myself because I don't have time. I don't have time to search. I need a good, strong salesperson in all these buy box areas that I've requested. And the relationship between myself and an agent and my crew and the agents and brokers I work with is of the utmost importance to me. I will answer your calls immediately. You will have my direct cell phone number. If you're a person who knows my criteria and understands how to find what I need and not waste my time, you get my time. So that's
Hey, Andrea, so that example that you gave us, are you flipping it or are you holding it?
The one that I got for 230?
Yeah.
I could flip it. I could literally, what I call Andrea-tize it, right? Make it super cute, make country modern, whatever's hot right now, because I love that part of the job. And then I would put it on the market, and I could, and I'd make some really good money. But this year is my year of buy and hold cash flow. I'm sure you guys all know what that is. If you're on Bigger Pockets, if you're not, shame on you. As an agent, you absolutely should be on Bigger Pockets. It's the best cheat sheet for you to really understand investing and expand yourself as a real estate agent. So, but yeah, so I'm going to keep it as a short-term rental. And let me give you some numbers. The one I'm sitting in right now that was actually half done by the owner. I bought it from a wholesaler because the owner didn't feel well and didn't want to finish the project. So I bought it like through a wholesaler to me. So it was like, there was a couple of people in between, but I got it for $277. And it's a wonderful property and it's halfway done already. And what I could do with both of them is flip them, which is what I would normally do. But just the vacation rental, because it's so hot in this area, just if I vacation rental both properties, right? I got hard money loans on them, got a little construction money. So it's an ugly loan. So I'm gonna have to refinance it into a conventional loan, right? And as soon as I do that, I'm gonna vacation rental them, and I should be making approximately netting, not grossing. I will be netting $95,000 a year on just these two. And remember what I paid for them, guys, $277 and $230. Now I'm gonna put 50,000 into the 277 property in construction, and I'm going to put 40,000 into my 230. So I'm at, net 270 and net whatever it is, three and change. But let's just do the math in your head in terms of what those mortgages will look like, conventional second homes, versus, the fact that I'm netting 95,000 a year. So that's already taken into consideration my property management stuff and my maintenance and my mortgage or debt service. That's how powerful real estate investing is. And I found those properties, one through a wholesaler, one on the MLS. I just was looking one night and boop, there it was. And I made this decision to do this. And this has all been in the last 30 or 40 days that I just said, I'm buying one, or let me buy another one. And then that's the money that will be coming into the company. Or to you if you do something like this. It's not rocket science at all. Anyways, okay, so locating them, I already went into the MLS. Let me go into the next place that I locate them. You want to become a buyer to wholesalers. How do you do that? Well, one of the ways that you can do it is when you're driving by and you see, we buy houses cash. That's a real estate investor. So take a picture of it and throw them on your Excel spreadsheet if you don't have a CRM. Shame on you if you don't have a CRM. But if you do have one, make a buyer's list. I mean, excuse me, you're gonna have a couple things to up your game as a real estate agent. You're gonna make a buyer's list, which, like I said, is a list of people, is a list of investors that will buy something that you run across that you don't want to buy yourself, because after a while you're going to want to, when you know the game, you're going to start keeping them yourself. But so you want to start building that buyer's list. And then you also want to start building places that you, wholesalers list. And so that's people that they're buyers too, but they're ones that flip them back over. I do that too in my company. That's one of the things that we do. So what that means is, let's see. So I could potentially, an old client tell me that her grandma passed away and she wants to get the property over to me, and she wants to give her an offer and decides to buy from me. Me being an investor, I may look at the property and go, oh, this is a totally awesome property to flip, but I'm busy in Big Bear, or it's way too far. I don't have a crew member right now to be over in that area, or the margins are too small because I don't have my own construction crew. That I don't have that. And people who do, their margins can be smaller than mine. Okay. They can be more competitive. So I look at it, and for whatever reason, I don't want to keep it. So now I'm going to take that. I'm going to contract with that person still. Just like, a listing, I'm going to get, your broker always says, get it signed, get it signed, get it signed. Same thing with the investor side of the world. I'm going to still agree to buy that property, because I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to go all the way to close on the property, and then take it down myself, or I'm going to get into escrow and then I'm going to assign that contract that I have with Mrs. Smith and myself and Black Label Group. I'm going to take that contract and I'm going to throw it out to my buyers list, right? And these are all the people that I'm going to tell you how to gather that are in this database. And I'm going to say, I've got this property. This is, what the contract says. This is what you'd be agreeing to. This is the address, XYZ. If you're interested in it, you put a non-refundable deposit into escrow, and I will assign my contract. It will now no longer be going from Black Label. It will be going to XYZ company over here with the end buyer. And I know that some of you guys are going, ooh, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem legal. I don't think my broker will let me do that. Hogwash. It is absolutely legal. It is legal in all 50 states. It is legal everywhere. There's a way to do it, and state by state changes a little bit. But you can absolutely do something of that sort. You do want to disclose it to the seller. But again, I always plug myself in with the seller, with them knowing that I will buy it. I'm going to keep my promise. I'm either buying it or one of my partners will buy it. That's how I always word it. And so one of my investor partners. And so it's never really a problem for the seller, because nothing on the contract is changing. Simply the person that's writing the check up for the money to escrow is changing, or the person getting the loan. So that's kind of what's called an assignment or a wholesale. So why do I want to know people who do that? Because that's where lots of good deals are. If you guys as agents get yourself connected to these types of people, you don't even have to go out and hunt off-market properties yourself, which is a whole nother class. You can instead just have these wholesalers emailing you over to maybe, just get a second email that you check daily, or that you just can ignore if it's getting too much. But if you had multiple wholesalers sending you daily what their properties are that they have off market, how valuable will you be to anybody, even just, Mr. and Mrs. Gonzalez who just had a new baby and need to go from a condo to a house. If you can say, look, let me list your condo, I'll find you a new house. And not only will I find it by looking on the MLS like every Tom, Dick, and Harry agent does, but I actually have access to off-market properties. And if I hit my wholesale pool and tell them I'm specifically looking for, a 3-2 in wherever, Seattle, Washington, then I know that my wholesalers in Washington will be looking for something like that for me and can send it to me. So you're not BSing them. You really do have access to off-market properties, and you really could potentially be the go-between for them to actually get a property off market right? And you just use a buyer broker to make sure that you get paid on the commission. So there's all kinds of different ways. And again, I don't want to step on the toes of a brokerage to get too creative with you guys, but do know that if you become an investor agent, which is really primarily an investor, but an agent behind, or if you become an agent investor, meaning you use your license primarily and sell, but you just do some agent investor stuff on the side or have a nice pool of investors, you will up your game and up your income substantially. You may even surpass your sales income with 1 or 2 deals. It's pretty amazing the things you can do. And like I said, locating is MLS and wholesalers. Those are the best 2 places for you guys. Other than, you know, going to Zillow and looking at Make Me Move, or going to Zillow and looking for sale by owners, or simply Googling for sale by owners in the area that you are. Those are nice ways to get a hold of, not a listing. Remember, you can actually get a hold of a for sale by owner by talking to the owner as a buyer and letting them know that you will, and you can, if you want to start taking them down, that you will, or you have investor buyers that you're willing to do 2 things. You can do a net listing, and you can talk to your broker about how to put one of those together, which is guaranteeing them a certain amount. Or you can do, you can actually list it, but regular listing, if that's what they want to do. Or you can actually put in, even as an agent, this is totally legal, and your broker shouldn't have a problem with you doing this because he actually really can't. You can put in as a buyer an offer to purchase their property, making sure you disclose, of course, who you are. And then once you do that, you can take that contract and you can actually sell that contract out. Or you can let everybody know in your office that you just got this under contract and they might have a buyer for it. Then you add agency to the deal. And now you have commissions getting paid to whoever they need to get paid to, and to whatever broker needs to be involved. You never want to leave your broker out because you want to be able to work both sides of it, right? There are ways to do that. And if you want to get more information about that, YouTube, plenty of ways to show you. If you just type in what you're looking for, bigger pockets. You can also call your local association, like bar.org has the legal hotline, and you can talk to them about what you're trying to accomplish if it's a little creative, and they will walk you through the process to make sure that it is ethical and legal and what documents you should use. But if you have
I'm going to throw in there, yeah, Andrea, and I'm going to throw in there, we might have agents from multiple states on this call. And so guys, always check with your state rules and Illinois, your state license laws and your rules. So make sure you check that.
And every association you're with, and whatever it's called there, you know, wherever you're hanging your license with your broker, they should have lawyers on staff or available to you. But even more so, whoever you have, like with your MLS or your association, excuse me, they usually have a legal hotline. So always figure out what you can do in your state. But I've found, because I have done this in multiple states, that this type of thing that I'm explaining to you can be done in some way, shape, or form. And there's somebody who holds both hats and is doing it, but probably not a lot of people. And that's why I'm saying it's such a great edge to know both sides. But do some research first, and even to maybe have a chat with your broker and tell them you want to start kind of getting into the investor side by helping investors and working like off-market properties and things like that, and see if they have any recommendations for you. And can guide you in the right direction, because that's what your broker is there for. So analyzing a deal.
I was going to say one thing though, Andrea.
Yeah.
From the express offers aspect, Andrea is a cash buyer for our program. So she knows that she can't do any wholesaling or anything like that for our properties. She knows that it's going to be, you know, the closing table, it's going to have her name and she's going to pay in cash. So she does all kinds of creative things, as we all can, but just so you know, just to cover the express offers aspect, it's all cash.
Absolutely.
And
guys.
I'm going to take that one step further. Andrea is your buyer, you guys.
Yeah.
So the strategies that she's talking about, you can actually go out into the marketplace and hunt for sellers, knowing that you've got a checkbook, checkbook in your back pocket. So you know, it's super important. I mean, yeah, there's tons of agents who want to implement these strategies and invest themselves, but you don't even have to do that if you don't want to. You've got Andrea. That's what she's there for. She's going to write you a nice fat cash check and get your seller out of whatever situation they're in.
Yes, thank you.
EXP, and it was pretty extraordinary because it's funny. A few years ago, I kind of envisioned something like EXP is doing years back. And when I heard about it, Express Offers, I'm like, oh my God, it's what I thought it on steroids. And it's so well organized, and it's being so well implemented by, as I can see, it's growing really fast. So, Express Offers is fantastic. I can't say enough about it. The fact that I could go in there state and it knew the kind of criteria that that I'd want to share with you guys, but yet I'm sharing it in one platform and it just blasts, it's available to all, is phenomenal. So, kudos to EXP because I haven't seen anything like this before. So yes, so let's back it up. I'm your buyer. I'm the first person on that Excel spreadsheet or in that CRM. And the beauty of that is you don't have to get creative or get outside of your wheelhouse at all. You literally have to go into Express Offers, look at a criteria and get creative, and even just don't even get creative. Just get an extra hour a day to start searching the MLS for ones that seem to be within that criteria. I mean, it's really a whole different, it can almost be kind of like a new segment of your business, just Express Offers. And that's the first step into being an investor agent, right? Because you're going to start now working with investors, and if you start bringing properties to myself and other Express agent buyers, what's going to happen is you're going to start really getting a better understanding of the game, because we're going to talk to you and teach you about what we're looking for and why we went for this property and why we won't go for this property. And you're just going to naturally start to learn exactly how we operate. So,
and Andrea, isn't it true that you actually would rather work with one agent who brings you 10 properties a year than 10 agents with one property once?
Please. Yes, please. Because when
Just saying, if you guys actually want a prospect for Andrea, she wants to work with you. So make a relationship.
Absolutely, please. I would love it. I love agents. I'm not the investor that thinks agents are pesky. In this side of the world, they say that investors kill deals and real estate lawyers kill deals, and that is true to a certain degree, because unfortunately, the truth is that real estate agents and real estate brokerages don't necessarily dig real deep into training on the investor side. I think that's starting to change. I am seeing more investor centric type brokerages pop up because it is blending more than it probably ever has in my career. So, it's definitely time to start kind of pushing the envelope in your brokerage and talk to your broker about wanting to work with investors and get some, helpful tips from them as well. But you definitely remember this: I'm available, and there are other people like myself who you could have 2 or 3 investors that you work for that could keep you busy. Imagine not waking up like I used to at 5 a.m. when the birds start chirping and thinking, oh my God, I got to pay my rent. Will my escrow close? Where's my next deal coming from? That was my life as a real estate agent for a very, very long time. So I love real estate agents. I know the game. I remember being in my hills in Compton, California, and everyone knows where that is if you know anything about rap. Literally, and trying to put signs up and run across the street, and getting harassed by people in cars, and because I'm trying to be professionally dressed but put my signs up, and it's a hustle, it's a game, it's an amazingly well paid and financial freedom game, real estate sales. But real estate investing, adding to that, it's tremendous, and it will absolutely change your life if you add that. So think about Express Offers if you haven't already, and reach out to me directly. And I am happy to just chat with you a little bit more about what we've talked about, or give you a little bit better understanding of how to analyze a property. As a matter of fact, if you reach out to me and send me an email, I will send you back my quick analyzer. It's just an Excel spreadsheet. You only have to have Excel. I built it myself. It's not fancy, but it's literally like you plug in certain information and it'll tell you the most that I would pay for the property, because it is my analysis. So it's based on the interest rate and the points I pay and the closing costs I generally think I'm gonna have to pay, and how much I pay to sell my property. So it has Andrea's or Black Label Group's information plugged into that analysis. So if you have that, my spreadsheet, not only can you adjust it and resave it for other investors, I'm okay with that, but for mine, you can plug in the amount that the owner wants for the property and know right away if it's going to fit into my category. I'm super happy to share that with you because it will save my time and it'll save your time. So that on the analysis.
Speaking of that, Andrea,
Yeah.
did you know that you can add a file to your buy box?
I do now that you say that, but I didn't think about
So
that.
I think it might only be PDF. I'll have to talk to Seth because if
Okay.
it is only PDF, then that's not very helpful. We
You
could
know
just
what?
maybe give a link to it or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Come to
I'll
think of
figure
it,
it
I
out.
think it is only PDF actually, but if it's not, you're right. I should go to each buy box and throw my analysis in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even if it's PDF, I mean, if it were me and I wanted to
help.
use it, I would print it out and fill in the blank and make copies of it. You know, I mean, I'd go old school if I had to.
No, you won't work because it actually does. They're formulas.
Oh, it
When
does the calculations.
Excel,
Yeah,
it
you
does
have
a
to do
lot
the
of
formulas.
calculations.
What she's going
Nice.
to have
Yeah.
is formula based.
Yeah,
We can
it is
always get it out
formulas.
in a different format. Julie will figure
Yeah.
it out. She's our tech
Any
rep.
way you want.
Yeah, just give it to me
happy.
and I'll make sure I put it with the post when we do the video and stuff like that.
I'd love
Okay,
to be on the
perfect.
list to get it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Awesome.
Cool.
I'd love
That's
to be.
Hey, Andrea, I got a quick question for you though. You were talking about a hard money lender. Do you have a time frame that you typically need to stick to when utilizing hard money? Like I've got to cash out of that in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. What do you have a time frame, a rule of thumb?
The rule of thumb is 6 months.
6?
That's just the way
Okay.
hard monies do it. It depends if you're developing, meaning that you're going to add square footage and you're going to do some major things, or maybe have to get a survey on the property site, or you want to add an ADU. You're talking 12 to 18 months. That's about your time frame in a lot of cities, not every city. Some could be even more. Like you try to go do any kind of construction in Hawaii, and woo, that'll take you a minute, right? I mean, but I'm aware of that, so I fit that into my numbers. But I would say 6 months is the most common for a basic remodel. And if
And
it's
that's
like,
because is that because that title needs 6 months worth of seasoning?
no,
No?
that is really how long it takes, how long we base with a little padding, an investor bases the amount of time it takes to close that escrow, find people to work on it, whether we use a GC or we work our trades ourselves, like hire our people ourselves, our window guy and everything else, and finish it and then clean it and stage it and market it and sell it and close escrow. We need that 6 month period. Generally, minimally. I've seen people do it in 4, but everyone usually will get a loan for 6. And that has nothing to do with seasoning. However, FHA does have some of those seasoning rules that are more strict, where I think they want you to have had it for at least 6 months, right?
Yeah, I think that's that's what I was wondering, if that's where you were coming up with that 6 months. I mean, I get the time frame for a flip. Obviously, you want to get in, get out, get done. I get it. But if you're using hard money for like a buy and hold, if you're, trying to acquire those doors, would you still want to try to refi out in 6 months just because of that, that inflated interest rate?
Yes, you want to
Yeah,
refi.
okay.
You want to refi out in as little amount of time as possible.
Yeah.
Because the interest rates are anywhere between high 8s and the 12s.
12. Yep. Okay.
I do private money.
Thanks.
I do private money lending in my town to people, and I do 12%.
Oh, that's
But I
wonderful.
don't make them do any kind of weird monthly payment or anything to me. I just come and check on them. I give them advice and I help them with their choices on the stuff they pick and all that. But then I just get paid back at closing. So I'm not
That's
really
awesome.
complicated. Yeah.
That's really great. And then that's why you get 12%. We generally are between 8 and 11. And it really depends. I personally like to share the wealth with my gap lenders like you, Julie. So I pay well because I don't really like to do joint ventures, meaning I don't like to partner with somebody legally because there's a lot of liability there. So instead of that, I just pay the person who's bringing me the money so well that they are getting a piece of the equity. So that's a really good strategy.
And disclaimer, we don't use any hard money in Express Office either.
Again, yeah.
It was a question just because it related to a conversation I had yesterday, so I had to ask. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so building rapport. What I meant by building rapport is I meant understanding how to really build rapport with your investor or with your sellers when you're trying to get listings even, right? Building rapport with anybody that you're working with is super important. And my biggest word when I think about building rapport is, dun, da, 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 it's my famous word, transparency. And it is, it's self-explanatory. I'm very honest. I'm very open. I'm very forthcoming with information to
Guess what, Andrea?
what?
One of the values at EXP is transparency.
Oh,
Literally.
good.
Yeah.
That's great. And that is the number one way to do business, period. But as an investor, you know, you have to remember as an investor and an agent and a sales agent, we're basically like used car salesmen, right? Maybe a couple steps up from that. I don't know, depending on what market we're in, right? Or who you're talking to. But so right away, I'm just really clear, like, this is what I am. This is what I do. This is, you know, this is how I do it. You know, I may keep your property and flip it. I may keep it and rent it. I may keep it in short-term rent, or I may find somebody else to buy it. But what I will do is keep my promise that's on this contract. Are you cool with that? No? Because, you know, most of the time they are. The only time they're not is when they think they're super savvy and they're like, well, what, you know, how much more do you think you might get? Or are you going to, you know, that, but that's not very common. Most of the time, they're just happy for you to keep your promise. And they know that you prove that you do have the ability to buy it. And so anyways, transparency is the number one rule with building rapport, and just being open and honest with your strategy, with who you are and what you're there to accomplish. And it will either go really well and it'll go your way, or it won't. But you won't at least have spent, you know, 3 different conversations and 2 house visits. Well, I guess not right now, but, you know, like I did in the past, 2 house visits, only to find out that you guys aren't going to come together with any kind of transaction. So I'm just really blunt, really upfront, and I just throw my cards out on the table immediately. And if it doesn't work, I just move to the next one. Because, you know, in sales and in investing, it's all sales. It's a numbers game. So just always be transparent and answer your calls as much as you can. That really is huge, especially to certain age groups. You know, answering your phone is important. If you don't answer your phone once or twice, you're kind of, you know, going to go down a few notches, right? So I think that's important. And then, you know, just keeping your word. Keeping your word is super important from the beginning. If you say you're going to call them at 12, you need to be dialing their number at 11:58, right? You know, I mean, because again, you have to remember who you're dealing with. You know, millennials, not such a big deal. They're like, you know, they're like, text me, you know, but certain age groups, even actually the really younger guys are really starting to hate texting and liking to get the personal touch calls. So keeping your word is part of building rapport, and it works, and it will change your business no matter what it is that you're doing. Lastly, presenting, I kind of touched on that. If you can talk to a for sale by owner, you know, anybody's off market who'd love to get on market, or even just a potential seller, and you can present yourself as an agent investor and explain to them what that means. It means that I have access as a buyer. What does that mean to them? It means you have access to off market properties and you understand the strategies and financing beyond typical conventional and FHA financing. I have a friend of mine who actually sold somebody's property only to find that they hadn't really gotten pre-approved like they thought they had, and was in escrow when she found that there wasn't a loan for them to be able to buy a replacement property. Okay. She called me up and said, oh my gosh, like I'm either going to have to take their, you know, cancel, and that's going to be scary for the seller because they're past contingencies, or I've got to find some kind of non-standard loan because every lender I'm calling can't do it, right? I think like the husband, I don't know if the husband wasn't legal and then the wife hadn't had a job, but they had a ton of money down because they were selling their property. It was just a complicated one. And they needed another like year to be able to go conventional. And so when she called me, because I have that, I know I have those lenders and I've got these lenders, I was able to send her to one of my guys that's kind of more of a bridge guy. So he's kind of between conventional and FHA and like private money. So there's a few different tiers between those. So I sent her to a few people, private money, a couple hard money, and then a guy that kind of does conventional and somewhat basically hard money. And actually, by the way, their names are Easy Street Financial. You want to talk to Todd, he's the owner. And so they were able to figure out a way to get a bridge loan for this couple, you know, really quickly. And the cool part about it is, when my friend who's a real estate agent went to put in the offer that was one of like 22 offers, she actually could go in hard money, close in 7 days or 10 days. So she became the top of the pile in terms of the counter offers and actually did get it accepted. 100,000 over asking with $100,000 down payment, which these guys could afford, but they went to the front of the pile. Why? Because, and if you know an investor that knows stuff like that, or if you start learning that, it completely opens up and makes you like an agent superpower, right? Or superhero, whatever. So I think that's something to know. So if you can present yourself to the buyer that way, as being that super knowledgeable agent with an understanding of both sides, so you can get him out of any situation or into any property, that's huge. Now, if you're talking to a seller, you just are able to say, you can give them like a one-stop shop scenario. You can say, I can find one of my investors that will buy it cash from you tomorrow, because I have that buyer pool. I have a whole Excel spreadsheet or CRM full of buyers that will probably want to put an offer on your house right now. They won't even have to walk in. I can take a video, take some pictures, take some notes, and they trust me and they know I know my stuff. So they will actually put a sight unseen offer, full cash, no contingencies, hard deposit right now for you. That is huge to be able to say that to a seller. Or, Mr. Seller, I can give you a guaranteed price, and then there'll be no commissions. I'll have to figure out how to get a little more than that to fit in a buyer agent commission and a commission for my own brokerage. That's a net listing. Again, see your local broker, that you work for, and get more information on how they do that. Do they do that? What the policies are internally. But that's a little cheat sheet there, right there for you, is a net listing. Look into it, Google it, go on Bigger Pockets, go all over the place, get some information, take it to your manager, and see if you're going to be the guy in the office that's doing something no one else is doing. That's always the way to do it, right? Have the edge. So then beyond that, if you can't do that, that doesn't even matter, because you can actually offer to just go straight as a straight listing. Now you can list it with no showings. You can list it with no sign on the yard. Guys, I'm trying to get you guys to think outside of the norms and the standards that we're taught in the brokerages. Those work, but we're in a crazy market, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And it's always a crazy market, right? It's either really high or it's really low, depending on who, buyer seller market, or it's something in between, but something just happened, and something's going on in Asia. I mean, there's always some reason why real estate's being affected. The stock market, whoever's in office, whatever. The point is that you can kind of, like, you're never going to starve. Any market is the right market for you because you understand both sides of it, right? So I can have a cash buyer for you. I can do a net listing and guarantee you a certain price on my listing agreement, or I can list it for you like this. Like, you can do like an auction style. You can basically have only one showing where everybody has to come one time, or you don't have to do any showings at all. You buy it from my 3D tour and my personal tour and my photos, sight unseen. Now you're thinking, no buyer's going to do that. Yes, they will. All the buyers on that list I'm telling you to build will, because that's how we buy houses. I often never see the house before I take ownership of the house. It is very, very common. See why we're awesome? You want us you want us as your clients because we're different and better than any buyer or seller you've ever worked with. I swear we totally are. So you can do this whole like regular listing, technically, right? You're going to use a listing agreement, whatever purchase agreement you use in your state. I got to remember, I'm not talking to Californians, but you also can set it differently. There's no Supra, there's no lockbox, there's no showings. The person who goes in non-refundable deposit as is going to be allowed to show it and probably show their contractor or get it inspected. But during COVID, if you told your seller, we will only have one person or two people enter your property once or twice in the entire transaction, start to finish, that is huge. And they will sacrifice some money for that convenience. Not to mention, if you are going off your buyer list and it's kind of like an exclusive listing, that's what we call them here. I'm sure you have some form of that where you live. You don't even have to put it on the MLS. You could have them give you that time period of a couple of weeks to kind of do it exclusively. Go to your buyer list. Guys, if you do that, you can offer a really good deal to your buyer list because there won't be any buyer's commission. Or you can add a little point to your side and now you're at 3.5 or 4, depending on what you locked it in at. So there's just so many different opportunities. And again, check with your local and state guidelines, the ethics, your guidelines within your brokerage, because some brokers are a little more conservative than others. But there are just a myriad of ways to be a real estate agent extraordinaire, superhero with superpowers that others don't have. And that's what it takes to be number one in this market right now. That's what it's always taken in real estate, because you know how many people get a license every week or every month. You can look that up. It's hilarious. And so you're always going to have competition, and you're always going to have the, my wife just got her license situation. But again, you're different and you're better because you get both sides, and there's different ways that you can take advantage. Honestly, you're going to get half of what I tell you because that's what we do. But remember this, if you just start jumping on bigger pockets, if you go to local REIA, which is REI, what is REI, real estate? Yeah, it's like basically going to
REIA, I think.
Yeah, REIA.
Yeah, it's Real Estate Investor Association.
Yeah, I do that.
REIA.
Yeah, everyone should do that.
I'm gonna end it with this. Ready? I hope you have a pen and piece of paper because you're gonna need it. Here are all the ways you can turn into an investor agent or an agent investor. Are you ready? All it is knowledge and network. Knowledge and network. Remember that. It's knowledge and network. That's all it is. The strategies come after that. If you start getting knowledge in a network, guess what happens when you need to figure out the strategies? You have the network. Guess what happens when you need to figure out the strategies? You have the knowledge. That's all it is. Knowledge network. The knowledge in the network comes from two different things. It comes from meetups and it comes from Facebook groups. That's how you can get started right now during COVID, where there's not as many like personal one-on-ones. I know some areas are totally open now. We aren't. So knowledge and network. So I would do this. I would go to Facebook in your local area and I would look up cash buyers in Fresno, California, cash buyers in Oahu, Hawaii, whatever it is. Wherever you want to specialize in, I'd start with your network, your neighborhood, and work outwards. You're going to start looking for cash buyers. You're going to start looking for real estate investors, real estate investing. Start adding all of those things to groups and start finding the people in your community or whatever area that you focus on, and connect and add yourself to that. And they usually have you do a little survey of like, who are you? Why are you trying to join our group? Just put that you are a cash buyer. Because what you're trying to do is come into them, be honest about it. I'm just starting to wholesale, or I'm just starting to get into the world of investing, and I want to start connecting with like-minded individuals.
Or I have iBuyers in my network that will buy properties.
There you go. So you do have. I have cash buyers, and I'd like to start making some connections to find them properties. That's why I'm here. And I want to start getting my investor, my investor game on, my investor groove on.
Whatever.
All right. And then you're going to go to Meetup, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to look for local community meetups. They may be meeting virtually right now, but they will eventually go back to in person. My favorite people in the whole wide world. Like, I grew up when I became an investor because my friends and colleagues became like-minded individuals, people who, I have millionaires and billionaire friends now. I didn't have that before. I came from Santa Ana, California, with 2 kids by the time I was 22. I didn't have friends like that. I do now. They're my besties still. Like, I met Stacy because she came to one of my own personal meetups that she liked what I put on my meetup, and she showed up, and I had somebody I think talking about, I don't even know, mobile homes that day or whatever it was that month. And that's why I met Stacy. She was here because she went to UCI, which is where I had my meetup in the city of Irvine. So she went to University of California, Irvine. And then I kind of mentored her through a transaction or so, helped her out on something that she needed me to list for her. Didn't even charge her, it was like a free situation. It was just a friendly thing. And then she has to go back to Hawaii. She touches bases with me. 3 months later, she is a partner at Black Label Group. What?
Nice.
That's how I met her at a meetup. I mean,
Yep.
anyways, it's insane. I love meetups. So my first meetups and my first investor groups doesn't exist anymore. That was Iris Veneration's Invest Club. And to this day, those people that I literally going through a divorce, having a bad time on a project, like these people are like my lifeline. They got me through COVID, like all my little network of people, because this is my own business. I don't wake up with like, and I'm single, so I don't like wake up with people to like bounce things off of. But I have my buddies, my investor buddies, who I met through these investor groups. So Facebook, Meetup, Eventbrite has them on there as well. You can go to Bigger Pockets and go to your towns and Bigger Pockets and start chatting it up there and tell the truth. I'm an agent. I want to up my game into investing, and you'll get all kinds of people like me, like their stories and here's what I did, and and if you have problems or need help, you can put it in a chat on Bigger Pockets or with one of your new buddies you met at one of these groups. It's insane, but it's very different than the agent world. Not to poo-poo the agent world. I have tons of real estate agent friends that are just real estate agents or brokers, but it's more like competitive in that realm. In investing, it's not at all. We're all like, what are you doing, dude? Oh my God, send me the contract you use. How did you do that? How did you lease option? How did you X, Y, and Z? How did you double wrap that property? What did you do? Can I see those contracts? Because I want to understand what you did. And then the guy's like, sure, here's everything I did. I'll send you my Dropbox.
Well, guess what though? Andrea, you're going to like this value. We also have the value of collaboration in EXP.
I like it.
Right.
Tell them EXP agent.
And I can tell you, I worked at Coldwell Banker Commercial before here, and it was not teamwork oriented, not helpful. They're just like, good luck. I don't want her stealing my clients. Oh, you want to go shadow me at lunch? I don't think so. The guy I work with is going to love you. I don't want you with me. You know what I mean?
Exactly. How about
So it's different
running
here.
to the copy machine when you printed something?
Yeah.
So luckily,
it's
it's not like that.
That's right.
Looking at my printout. Oh my God, he's totally looking at my printout. What a jerk. Totally. That was the life I lived, but I don't live that life anymore. I give freebies to every agent
Everybody.
I meet, and I share everything. I'm going to share one last thing with you guys. There is a person named Peter Fortunato, Fortunado, I think. Peter. He's in Florida. He's older. This man has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of doors. Doors are units, right? It could be one house, or 4 doors is 4 units, a multi-unit, right? So he's got thousands of doors. And he has never purchased one with any kind of institutional funding. He only does creative stuff. He's the guy who says, don't use a real estate attorney. They'll kill the deal every time.
Yep.
Okay. He's extreme. He's extremely amazing. He's not going to be teaching forever. He's super inexpensive because he doesn't need the money. That's what a lot of these oldies are. He's the guy that I would catch before you can't, because he's the other side of the world. He's really, truly the extremely other side of the world. And if you get a bit of an understanding, and all he does in his classes, which is what I'm recommending you do, is give you case studies of scenarios and how the problems were solved and what documents were used.
Yep.
I don't care whether you don't have any interest in ever investing in real estate. It would behoove you to understand how things can be done outside of car forms, outside of your local, state, and government forms, on a flippin' napkin. How it'll give you a better understanding of insurance and title and legalities and liabilities, because this guy will, like, one last example will be this one lady. I remember him saying something about this lady. She was getting a divorce. She had a high school student who lived, the high school was in her neighborhood. She couldn't afford it on her own, and she was getting divorced. So she was like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I have to sell it. I'm behind on payments, da-di-da-di-da. So he put a lease option on her he put an option on her property, gave her the money that she needed to basically subsidize her income to keep the property for the next 3 years to get him past high school, right? He almost never takes these properties back. I mean, he's just an interesting dude, but he got, like, he got money out of it because she had to pay him back for the money he gave plus interest, right? But of course, she got remarried by the time, or had a boyfriend and had just a better situation financially 3, 4, 5 years later, and was able to just pay off his option, and she still has the house to this day.
Yeah,
So
he's
there's
old school.
that is old school, but guess
He's
what,
old
guys?
school.
Old school is new school. It always turns out that way,
It
right?
always cycles, doesn't
Old
it?
school is new school. The way that our titles and land work, land banking and trusts and land, just every way that we do title today is centuries old. So there's
Right.
no such thing as old school, really, because it's still the same way. We just call it house.
I guess I meant he's been around for a very long time.
Oh, he's old school.
Yeah.
What I mean is, no, I totally know what you meant.
Yeah.
He's old. He's totally old
yeah.
school. And it's funny because in the back of his room, and it will be another 3 or 4 guys, and all those guys you'll want to meet because they all go to each other's meetings to this day. They'll fly out to see each other, or be their local guys, and they all do classes together and stuff like that. But these guys, before they're gone, because I don't think they make them this way anymore, you guys. No. It's like, buying the 1950s. They don't, they're solid wood. They're not veneer, guys. They do not make them like this anymore. So you want to meet Peter Fortunato and go through his case studies and get that book. I've gone to his class twice, and I use that book all the time. Sometimes it's just my thought process of how I can get somebody through a situation. If you can truly help somebody, and there's all kinds of motivated sellers and going through all kinds of situations, that's a whole other story. If you can figure out a creative way to get them out of their situation, you can teach your broker some things. Trust me, I have. I'm just saying, let's be different, let's be better, let's be amazing agents, and let's make 2021 our year.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea.
Absolutely.
I'm going to stop the recording. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but if you do, you can hang around for a second. But I'm going to stop the recording so we can put it on Workplace later.
There you go. I got to bounce. But Andrea,